Hi, everyone. Tonight's guest is a total pro who's been bringing characters to life for over 30 years. Craig Lindberg is an Emmy-nominated makeup artist and a master of both beauty and special effects. And I just met him on Saturday in Worcester, Massachusetts, at the Dead of Winter Film Festival. It was amazing. And you've seen Craig's work everywhere, and you probably don't even know it. His 20 years on Saturday Night Live, plus Boardwalk Empire, The Walking Dead, Spiderman 3, and upcoming films like Oh Canada with Richard Gere. From zombies to red carpet looks, he's done it all. Welcome to the show, Craig Lindberg. Yay!
Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing? Hey, thank you.
So
Thank
good.
you.
It's so
Thank
fun
you.
to have you. Thank you so much for accepting. That was so, I could have talked to him all night or all day yesterday, Saturday. It wasn't even that long ago.
No. Yeah.
So how did growing up with horror and sci-fi flicks spark your love for the makeup artistry?
Well, my mom was a big horror. It's, my mom liked horror and comedy. So, and my parents were big moviegoers. So I was always going to the movies, seeing all types of films. And I grew up where you had often double bills. We saw foreign films. We saw tons, only like maybe 3 or 4 movies like a week we would take. And my mom loved to go to the theater. So I guess I kind of got bit by the bug then. I wanted to be an actor first,
Mhm.
but in New York, someone used to make the joke you couldn't swing a dead cat in New York City without hitting someone who wants to be an actor. So I did a lot of that in college and in high school, but once I got into it, I kind of saw myself going in a different direction. And as growing up as a horror kid, as a sci-fi kid, I kind of started playing around with makeup. And I had a buddy back then who got really deeply involved with it as the movie called American Werewolf had come out, and that sparked a lot of people's interest and imaginations. And he was like, "Oh, I want to be a makeup artist." I said, "Makeup artist? Yeah, okay, all right, all right." And then I started taking some classes in some of the local schools here, and I just started doing that, and then it just kept snowballing. Truth be told, I did a lot of student films. I did a lot of student films for nothing because it gained me experience,
Mhm.
and it just kept going and going and going and going, and then finally, I got to a point in my career where I'm like, okay, I have to make the next step. I can't keep doing independent films for $50 a day. I have, responsibilities. I have things like this. So, and I decided to get into the union, and and then I did my test. I was one of the last group of people that took the union exam, which was a 12-hour exam,
Woo!
and you had a male and a female model. The female model came in first, and you had to do a beauty makeup on them. Then you had to do a period look on them. You had to do a healed broken nose, and back then we didn't have silicones. We did it out of mortician's wax, or naturoplasta was the wax. Then you had to apply a cut, which was a prosthetic. Either you purchased it or you made it yourself. And I believe you had to do old age on them. I can't remember if it was a female model, but
Wow.
so once they were done, they left. The male model came in, and on the male model, you had to do, I believe, maybe bite was the old age, where you had to do stretch and stipple, where you just pull the skin and you apply aging product, and then you had to do a theatrical version of it, which was highlights and shadows. Then you had to do a 5 o'clock shadow with what's known as a stipple sponge to give them like a 5 o'clock shadow. You had to do a lace mustache, and then you had to lay hair that. And then you also had to, oh, I forgot, you also had to do a bruise too. And then you also have to do a ball cap, and that was your exam.
Woo!
And back then you could either be, if you didn't pass the exam, or it depends on how bad you were. If you were good, great, you got a journeyman. If you were, like if you messed one little thing up, you drop down to what was known as entry level. And there was a big fiasco that happened with the mustache, and not my fault, but my fault. And so I got entry level, but now I've been a journeyman since 2005. So I got the journeyman, exam. Hmm.
I'm gonna say
Uh,
Jake. Jake says he has a VHS room with 1,000 horror movies in it.
well, that's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, well, when we get into it, I'll show you my DVD collection.
And Patricia says, "Good evening from Canada. That your
Oh,
artistry is amazing."
oh, well, thank you.
Hi,
Thank you.
Patricia.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey,
And
thank
Camille
you.
Harris says hello.
Yeah, I know Camille. Hey, Camille, how are you?
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So you started with an acting curiosity. How did that turn
Yeah.
into sculpting monsters and painting faces?
Well, I was an artistic child. I
You still are.
I thank you. I used to do like even though I would watch TV, I was always building something. I was always making something. I was always like my mom used to have the old plastic hair curlers with the
Uh-huh.
bobby pins, and I used to make them out of spaceships. I used to make spaceships out of them. I used to make marionette puppets out of them with everything with whatever I had on hand. I created something. I was always
Oh, I love
painting,
that.
creating, doing something. Because even when if I'm on the phone talking to somebody, I'm always doodling. I'm always doing something. So I think it just naturally was always there, inherited in my system, was to build something. Like, behind me, when we get a chance to, I have all these model kits that I built when I was younger. And then when I was in Georgia working on The Walking Dead, I got back into the hobby of doing them because, when I was working, great. When I wasn't, I was bored. So I would build these things and make them. So I have like a lot of kits that I would sit there. And when we
Show
had the,
us some. Go ahead, show us some.
oh, okay, okay,
Yeah, let's go play. Everyone, do you
all
want to
right,
see?
okay, okay. So, all right. So first off, this is my DVD collection. If you could kind of see it. Sorry, there's my makeup kit in front of it, but there's my
Oh, wow.
DVD, and
Hey, what
so
do you
that's
think?
that's my
Pretty good.
DVD. That's some of it there.
Now remember, this is when he moved into his down here just to work. He has a big office someplace, but this is his
Yeah,
COVID get it done, and he
yeah.
prepares in advance like the ball head cap so that he saves the actors
That's
time on
the
the set.
head.
There's
That's one
some
more thing. There's some other things. Let me walk around. Sorry.
Oh, it's very cool. Thank you.
Those are the And that's that actually what's in the showcase there is the actual Dick Smith pieces. I had gone to Japan. Those are my model kits there. I will show you the other room. For those who are old enough to know, those are my figures. And these are my little wacky things that I did for a newspaper called the Weekly World News.
Oh, yes, they're crazy.
Yeah, hold on. My hand's in the way. So that's them. And actually, I'll show you something really funny. This
Yeah.
one right here in particular, that one. You see the one with the actor's monster makeup won't come off. If you take a look at the doctor who's examining him, that's me. It's Dr. Nino Sanfilippo from La Plata, Argentina.
Ah,
These
ah,
are, yeah, those are some of my Emmy stuff. I have some other Florida, room, and I'll show you the shop.
yes,
Okay,
please.
okay.
Hi,
So
Lisa says, super cool.
thank you. That's my books, my bookshelf. Jeez, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Sorry about
You're
that.
fine. You're fine.
Sorry, I grabbed
Lisa
it.
is a ballerina. Did you ever do any
Uh,
ballerinas?
I
You
probably, I'm
probably
sure I
taught
did. I did, maybe I did like some makeup. So that's my model kits station. I built that during COVID. Um, this is the shop itself. So you can see the shop going on there.
And if you go on his Instagram, there is a 4-part series of him doing these 4 bald caps. Then he did
So that's it.
on there. That is so fun.
Thank
And
you.
what's your most special thing?
I like all of them, to be honest with you. I don't really have like a particular favorite, as opposed to something that I just like to do. Well, I'll show you a little. For people who've ever seen the play, they're doing a Broadway version of Death Becomes Her. So I've been building the necks for them.
Ooh.
Those are the necks. So that's like the thing I've been building. So don't mind the ceiling. I've been working on that.
We don't mind at all. We love seeing the
Okay.
inner sides. Darlene says, hey, hello, guys. Hello, Darlene.
Hi, Darlene. How are you?
Nice to see
Hey,
you.
Jeremy. Nice
So
to see
what
you
was it
too.
like kicking off your career back in the early days? I know that we were talking, you started
Right.
teaching.
Well, I
Christine?
started doing, I started doing a lot of student films because I knew that I needed to build up set experience, and I
Mhm.
needed to also find my way, because when you work as a student, when you work on student films, you tend to wear a lot of hats. I've been an assistant director on the student films. I was a sound recordist. I used to do the nog red. The guy be like, as long as it doesn't go in the red, you're fine. Just keep it below the red. I was boom microphone. I did art direction. I did costumes. I did wigs. I did a lot of things, and it's a great experience because a lot of students are very appreciative for your help, especially if you got to work free. But if you think about it, what is your end goal? I mean, obviously, you don't want to work for free forever, but you got to get that experience somewhere.
Mhm.
And especially if you want to get into the medium of, or the media of film, it's a great way to do it. And I
Mhm.
know a lot of people are worried, oh, I'm not going to get paid. I'm like, if you're at home and you're with somebody who's supportive, whether maybe you're home, you're with your family, your parents can take care of you. And if this is what you ultimately want to do, there's nothing wrong with working on student films, because you never know where those students are going to go.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you a little funny. I'll show you one little thing. I actually have
Nice.
a script, original script from the movie called Demon Knight.
Demon Night.
Yeah, that was it was the first
Ooh.
first it was it the Tales from the Crypt? It was one of the first Tales of the Crypt movies. And
Ooh.
those guys were NYU students. And
Ah.
now you see where they are now. They're big time producers. So you never know where you're going to go as long as you stay the course. You stay on that. If you believe in it, if this is what you really want to do, it's not going to be an easy course. It's not meant to be an easy course, because if it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Mhm.
But if you have it in your heart to do this, you will deal with the 4 a.m. arrival times on set. Uh, when I did the TV show called Army of the Dead, our call times were 12 a.m. And so our lunch was crew's breakfast. And we would work from 12 a.m. to 7 p.m. a lot. But if that's what you really want to do, you do it. You
Yeah.
do it, you know, and you get on shows like this. Here we go.
Yeah, and it's exciting, and your passion just makes you wanna jump out of bed and do it in the morning.
Well, I don't know if I'm old. I don't know if I'm going to jump out of bed anymore, but I'll roll over and get there.
Kevin says, "Hi, Cynthia. Hi, Craig. Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
We
Hi,
appreciate
Kevin. How
you."
are you? How you doing?
He's so good. He's here with us. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
and Camille is so jealous positively of your workspace. She hopes to have a space like that herself one day.
Of course
Wow.
you will.
If
Of
you
course
dream
you will.
it,
Of
right?
course you will. Of course. I mean,
Yeah.
I started out and so many people started out in like little rooms. Maybe they're living in a one-room apartment. Like one part of their apartment is dedicated to the makeup, and the other part is for living. You make do, and then you know I've been doing it for as long as I've been doing it, because I've never said I quit. I said, okay, whatever you
Yes.
got to do, you got to do. And we may complain about the hours, but we never say the word quit. And we move on, and we move on, because that's the passion. If you lose the passion, then what are you doing? And I always say, people, every knowledge you get, and and you learn more by listening to people, even when it's people you don't really necessarily like. But I've learned by just closing my mouth and then listening to people, because no matter what someone is, There's always a bit of wisdom that somebody's going to say. And you got to get that. It could be little tiny thing, very, very small, but it's a movement forward. And if you listen to all those things, even the negative things do not necessarily need to be negative. You create it as a negative thing. But any negative thing, it's like when we talk about people making a boo-boo, they make a mistake, something happens. But it's not a mistake, it's a learning opportunity. And it's how you grow. If you don't grow, you're not passionate enough to continue. And it doesn't matter if it's makeup or whatever it is. If you don't have the passion, then you don't go anywhere. You can have an interest in it, but an interest is like, whatever. But you turn that interest into something that enriches you, gives you growth, then you're doing it. Then it's not a waste of time. If you do something for 20 years, you say, that's it, I'm done, I ain't doing it anymore. You kind of wasted 20 years. But if you continue it, then you're growing.
So you've got Lindbergh's 5 L's. We were just talking about this in acting class yesterday. You are so point on. We've got life, love, listening, laughter, labor. That's all you need. That's all you need. Yeah, so you've got 140 productions or more under your belt. What's been the craziest gig so far?
And it's hard to say which was the craziest one. I mean, they all come with something. Some are more easier than others. Some people ask me like, do you have one that's your favorite? And I said, I kind of like all of them because they all do something. They all bring something to the table in one creative way or another.
At least who loves your passion.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, it should be. I mean, I would love. Yeah, thank you. I think if you have a love for everything, like people ask me, like I said, what's your favorite? I said, I don't really have a favorite. I like all of it. If I had a favorite, I would be just doing that. But I want to do a lot of things. And I think it's very important that if you want to be a makeup artist, if you want to have a career, you should have an incredible amount of diversity in your skill level, because you don't know what happens. I did a show called, show was called Ghost. And the way Ghost would work is you would work 6 months. It was episodic, and it would end. And then the next season would pick up basically where that last season started. But you had a 6-month gap in reality. So we had an actor who came in who at the end of one of the seasons had a beard. He came into the trailer and he came and he goes, I'm sorry, I had to shave my beard because I was on another show. Not his fault, no one's fault. But because he was on another show, he had to trim it. So this is where having a lot of capabilities come in handy, because we went there, we put the beard back on. And so everything was saved. So you as a makeup artist or anyone else could save a production by having by diversity. So if this is what you want to do, thank you. But it just goes to show you that I may not do hair laying all that often, but because I know how to do it, it came into handy. Like I don't do ball caps. Well, on SNL, there's always some kind of form of ball cap going on, but I'm not always in the room helping them do ball caps because I have a cast member that I have to be responsible for, and he's in another space sometimes. But knowing how to do it, if someone throws you a ball cap, you better know how to put on a ball cap because they're going to expect you to. And that's why you have to do the practice. You have to have the diversity. You have to have all this stuff. And if you're sitting at home, someone once told me, he goes, I know we're talking on the phone, but put the phone down for a minute and go and do something. Go, like I didn't, when you're talking about, when I was talking about my childhood, didn't have a phone. Didn't exist. We had one of those ones on a thing, and you dialed it. I think there was, smoke signals, and you had to hit a rock. That's how old it was. But because of that, I had to be creative. And I would always tell people, and someone said it to me, he goes, take that phone and put that phone down and say, for 15 minutes, I'm not going to look at my phone. I'm going to do this. and do something that you think is going to benefit and enrich your life up here and in here. Even if it's drawing or painting, whatever you like in your life, spend time doing that. If you like going for a walk, get out, go for a walk. Whatever you think that enriches your soul, do it. Take that phone, put it away, and go do something. You're gonna be better for it.
Absolutely. So good for your soul.
Thank you.
Yes, excellent. So you mentioned SNL. How did landing Saturday Night Live for 20 years change the game for you?
Well, I remember seeing the very, very first show.
Woo!
Like, I watched the very first show, and there was a gentleman. His department head. His name is Louis Zakarian. He's been there for more than 30 years. He's been there. Basically, his career has been, like, the show is 50 years old, so he's been more than half of the show. He's been there as a department head, and I knew him. We sort of knew each other because we all grew up in Flushing, Queens, but we were all in different parts of Flushing, Queens, so we all kind of knew each other. But I met him at there's a store here in New York City called Alcone. It's a big makeup store, and I met him at a party. They were opening up a space, and I met him at a party, and he approached me and he says, "Hey, I'm gonna need a swing on SNL. Are you available?" And I said, "Okay." He said, "But please come in for your interview. I need to look at your book and things like this." So on the day of looking at bringing my portfolio, I get a text from him saying, "Oh, we have to cancel today." And I said, "Oh, okay." But I was already in the city, and I'm literally, I swear to God, I'm sitting just around the corner from SNL, sitting on the ground, talking, and I got my portfolio, and who walks around the corner but Louis Zakarian, and he goes, "Hey, I can see you now." So I went and I interviewed him, showed him my book, and I walked out and I kind of went, did I make it? Did I not make it? But then he called me up and he said, "Come in, we need a swing." So I was a swing. That means I would just pop in whenever they were short of makeup artists. And I did that for like a few years. And so I maybe 2 or 3 times within a 2 or 3 years. So it wasn't much, but and then somebody was leaving mid-season, and then he offered me the job. And my first cast member was Bill Hader. So I worked on Bill Hader for half a season. And then I worked on Will Forte. He was my first full-time cast member until he left the show. And then I had Taron Killam until he left the show. And then I had Alex Moffat, who was there until he left the show. And now I'm on Marcelo Hernandez. So every cast member, thank you. So every cast member has a makeup, a hair, and a wardrobe person assigned to them. And unless there's short, then you might do other people. But generally speaking, you're there for that particular person. And so you're with them for the beginning of the show to the end of the show. And you get tons of quick changes, like our let's say our record of a ball cap was 4.5 minutes.
Woo.
And there was 5 people working around the one actor, getting them into a ball cap. And I think we had to do 5 ball caps at once, and it was 20 minutes. 5 ball caps in 20 minutes. We literally had an assembly line, but that's the show.
That's impressive.
And so that's the show. It makes you faster. Sometimes when I'm doing something, I'm like, I gotta go, I gotta do this, because I'm so used to being fast. And when I have the time, I'm kind of like, oh, I have 4 minutes. Oh, that's a lot of time. Okay. It sounds weird to say it, but I'm like, oh, it's like 4 minutes, man. That's like, 180 seconds. That's a hell of a long time, if I did my math right. But it does me. And then it also lets you kind of say, I don't need to worry about that because this is going to cover it. So it also helps the actor, because maybe the actor doesn't have to be in the chair all that long. You worry about what's going to be seen, and you can kind of go, I don't have to worry about that.
That is fantastic.
Thank you so
Very
much.
Cool. Very
Thank
cool.
Thank you.
Yes. We had that picture for Christmas that they loved you, and they made that little banner.
Oh yeah.
Can you put up mine? I think Craig's is better, but look.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Isn't that cute? Tell that story because you're so loved.
Okay. For those who see the picture, they made this little garland thing for me, and there's all these little pictures of me in different ones. But there's a little weird one which looks like a dog. So we watched this dog called Comfort, and I talk about Comfort a lot. So they combined me with Comfort. And that's a picture. But I walk in the door, and I'm like surprised by this. This is why I think, it's such a heartwarming feeling to know that they went out and they did this for me. Uh, and you can actually see that's part of the shop in SNL. That room there is where a lot of the mess happens. That's where you see all the buckets and things like that. And you see a bit of the board. That's the written down board of what sketches the cast members are going to be in, and if they're going to have like a bald cap or a beard or a mustache, and that's your work board and things like that. But yeah, that's that little garland. And actually, I'll show you real quick. They actually made a few little Craigzillas for me.
Oh, hi, Craigzilla.
That's my
You're
yeah.
adorable.
They got into 3D printing, so they took my face and put it on little Godzillas,
Oh,
and it was a Christmas
adorable.
ornament. Yeah.
Oh, you're loved and beloved. How many years have you been now at SNL?
20 years. 20 years.
Woo-hoo.
This 2025 was my 20 because I started mid-season, so it was like my 20th year.
That's wonderful. That is so wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, you're
Yeah.
a rare talent doing both beauty
Thank you.
makeup and special effects. How do you switch gears between the two?
What was the question? I'm sorry.
I said, you're amazing.
Thank you. Thank
And you
you.
do the beauty makeup and the special effects. How do you switch gears between the two?
Well, it's like going back to being diverse, because if you're just an effects person, you're only going to get hired to be an effects person. But if you can do both, you get hired more because you can do both. I did a movie, I believe it was, oh God, I wish I never remember the movie, but it might have, I don't remember, something island. I can't remember, but it was literally like laying hair and then having someone come in and put beauty makeup on, then laying hair and then putting beauty makeup on. So I literally had to worry about hair falling into my makeup. But because I had the capability of doing both, you get hired twice as much if you think about it. Because if the show isn't requiring you to do someone messed up, they'll ask you to do, light grooming, shaving people, doing some beauty on on people. And so it's just, I think it's just better. And even the more irons in the fire, you know what I mean? It's just, I think, I look at it, if you want to call yourself a makeup artist, you should have diversity. You should have capabilities of doing something. I mean, you don't have to do high fashion unless you like that. There's nothing wrong with doing high fashion and do this and do that and do that, because once more, you open up more opportunities for yourself. And that just comes from putting the phone down, doing something. There was this really great story when I first started doing makeup, and my parents were still alive. I would often wake up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning because everybody would be sleeping, and I was the time for me to be creative. My brain would go. And I remember we had one bathroom in the house, so I think it was 3:30 in the morning, and I'm sitting there and I'm putting eyeliner on myself and eyeshadow and things like this, and I get this presence that somebody's like watching me, and I look, it's my dad standing in the doorway looking at me like this, and I was like, no, Dad, I'm just practicing. I'm not switching sides. Don't worry about it. It's just me practicing. And I make a very ugly woman, to be honest with you. But it's what I did. It's what I did. But practice. It's how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. Don't be so hard on yourself if something doesn't go right, because when I teach, I always tell people, I've been doing it for how many years? I make, you're going to make the same boo-boos that I made. You might make the same mistakes that I made, or you might make a whole other types of mistakes. As long as you don't kill the person in the chair, you're fine. But even then, you got to find out why you killed the person. Like, what did I do? Maybe I should change my makeup because maybe it's old. But it's what it's just really boils down to just doing it and doing it and doing it, and learning about the products. I mean, YouTube I predate YouTube, and there was only 3 makeup books when I first started. And there was no schools, except for later on there was some schools, or there was workshop classes, and I took them all because I knew that whatever you do, you kind of do for yourself. You I can't think of, when you do something for yourself, you're doing something for you. I mean, there's a word for it. I can't think of the word off the top of my head, but the more you invest in yourself, the better dividends you will receive,
Mm-hmm.
if you think about it that way. So,
Take us behind Johnny Gruesome.
okay.
How did you craft those 7 rotting looks for those?
7 was so my friend.
By the way, they still are
What,
actors.
what happened? I'm sorry.
I said they still had to act. They're still actors and
Yeah.
actresses.
Yes. So Johnny Gruesome was done by my friend Gregory Lamberson, who's a filmmaker out of the Buffalo area, Chickasaga. He does a movie every single year, this guy. He's been doing movies for years. And I met him, believe it or not, there was a newspaper called the Backstage Newspaper. I don't know if you would probably remember the Backstage Newspaper.
Yeah.
So what I used to do is I used to go every Thursday to the local Barnes & Noble in the city, take it off the shelf and write down a whole bunch of information, and then put it back on the shelf. And I contacted him, and he was looking for a makeup artist for a movie called Naked Fear. It was actually called New York Vampire when he first did it. It was called Naked Fear. And through that, I got to know Gregory Lamberson. And we're talking years and years and years. It was like 87, 88 or something like that. And we became friends, and he moved up there. But then he asked me to do, and he had this movie called Johnny Gruesome, and he's had it for a number of years. Like, he's done like books about it, he's done like music videos. But when it came to doing the movie, he asked me, will you be willing to come up to Buffalo to work on this film? So the 7 looks is when he's normal, he's himself. He dies in the film. So the second look is when he's in the funeral parlor. So I made him look like, as they usually make him with overly processed makeup, but he rots through the film, and it's progressively a rotting look. So as he rots, his makeup changes. So he looks a little gray, and then his mouth starts to look weird. But at the end of it, he literally basically has like his teeth are showing. He's in a bald cap with straggly hair. I believe it's on Tubi, Johnny Gruesome. So that was the 7 looks, because he had to have at least 5 progressively rotting looks throughout the film, and the other 2 looks with just his regular makeup, or his regular look and his funeral look, and then the rest of it. So it had to be progressively to show that he's dead and he's not alive, and he's being exposed to the weather and the environment. So he's dead. So I did it.
Wow. One actor, 7 looks.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
And how long was that process?
Well, I believe we shot for like a month and a half, and I believe Gregory shot it more in progressive fashion. So his look, like, we didn't shoot like scene 1 at the end. I believe we always where I think he did it where it would be follow the script a little bit more as he would shoot it. There was some ones that he did because of locations. But like, I think the last look, which he had to have full arms, all rotted full arms, and I did that with a product called Baldies. It's actually kind of a acrylic-based plastic thing. They make ball caps out of it, but you could actually do it on a form, and then you can actually spray alcohol on it. It kind of attaches to the skin with alcohol, because that was actually Super Baldies. Sorry, acetone is Baldies. Super Baldies is alcohol. So sorry about that. So anyway, and that would actually adhere to his skin, and then I would just pull pieces out to make it look like the skin was being rotted off and like that. But the whole process, the last one, was about 4 hours, because it's his face, the ball cap, the hair, the arms. And those pictures are on the Instagram page.
Yes, you can check that out. I was looking at them today, as a matter of fact.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow.
So what's trickier, making a prosthetic look real or nailing a subtle beauty look for high def TV?
Well, high def is a weird animal because if you don't blend that makeup, it's glaring. It's like 80s blush, but you're not doing 80s blush. You don't mean to do an 80s blush. Uh, um, I think, to me, if you could make a prosthetic look realistic and people don't believe it's a makeup, I think you actually did a great job.
Mm.
Someone asked me, like, what's my favorite makeup of all time? And my favorite makeup of all time is a Father Merrin character from The Exorcist, the original Exorcist, because I had no idea that Max von Sydow was in prosthetics. I believed he was an old man.
Wow. And you saw that
Everyone knew.
show as a very young child, actually.
Oh, yeah, I saw it in the theaters.
And
Like I
how
said, my
old were
mother took me to see, when it came out in 72, I was like 8, 9, or 10 years old.
you?
You know,
Yikes.
I always make the joke that I saw more heads being cut off before the age of 12 than a lot of people. My mom used to took me to see, like I saw The Omen in the movie theaters. I used to watch this. My mom, we used to see all these movies like Beasts of Blood and Don't Look in the Basement and Dr. Butcher, MD, things like this. My mom took me to see it. You know, if we weren't going to a comedy, we're like, let's go to a horror movie. You know, and funny because those movies were rated G. If there was no nudity, it was you could cut someone's head off, but don't show boobies
Huh.
because that would get you an R or an X
Mm.
before parental guidance. But you can chop someone's head off, G-rated. It's okay. But that's how I saw a lot of the movies. And I remember as a kid, there was a movie called Beast of Blood, and it was a character called the Chloroform Man. It's a and I used to take tinfoil because he was like sort of like a skull-like thing, and I used to put tinfoil and draw like little bones on my hand, and that's what I did. And I remember when I was a kid, I was a big monster fan. There used to be it was called the 4:30 movie, and it was I mean, I'm sure it's an ABC affiliate thing. So they used to have like Apes Week, so you saw the whole five Planet of the Apes movie. They used to have Sci-Fi Week. They used to have Poe Week. They used to have Monster Week, and Monster Week was either Godzilla or Gamera. And I remember as a kid cutting out of like cardboard the Gamera shell and wearing it as a costume
Oh,
and
that's
walking
great.
around my house with it. And I used to put thread all over the house and make believe they were high tension electrical wires. And so I think my mother went through so many spools of thread because I would do that. I used to take my father's belts or ties and put them in make believe they were a tail and do that as a kid.
Oh,
Um,
I love it.
but yeah, I've never told anybody these stories, but now you guys are hearing this stuff.
Yeah, this was
But
great.
but it was fun, and I think whatever influences you get, whether you follow certain artists, that's fine. That's fine. It whatever. The one thing I always tell people when they learn with me, it's like however you get to grandma's house, you get to grandma's house. If you have your particular way of doing makeup and it looks great, it looks great. Like I worked on Penguin, and I did the uh, Kristen Maloney, her scars. I was asked to do her scars. I came in like episode 3 because, and so I did her scars. But the one thing that was always there, I was looking at, his penguin makeup. Unbelievable. Even close up, I'm like, and I don't look weird, but talk about something that looks realistic. It's an amazing makeup. It's phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, which is harder? I think taking something that looks fake and making it look real is really, really difficult because you can do makeup. Some faces take makeup extremely well. Some don't. So I think each one has its own challenges. Especially with high def and things like this, where all the hard lines are not they're like hard. And if they require blending, so if you're doing like a makeup that's fake and making it look realistic, then you've done it. Like, even when I talk about bruises and things like this, as long as you make it look like no one knows it's a makeup. Like years ago, I did a makeup for Law and Order SVU, and one of the characters had what was known as Wilson syndrome. and she and they, you know, they have, sometimes they would have weird teeth, sometimes their ears will be a little pointy. And I did pointy ears, I did teeth, but I also did eye bags on this actor. And everyone kept saying, "Oh, look, the teeth," and no one no one mentioned the eye bags. Even when they were talking to her, they never mentioned. So the eye bags were makeup, but no one knew they were makeup. So I said, "That's a good job," because everyone thought it was her. And so I think that if you do a makeup that's meant to be part of the character, and no one says, "Oh, that's a makeup," you've done a great, phenomenal job.
Nice.
You know?
What's your go-to product or tool that's always in your kit, no matter the job?
Well, it depends on what I'm doing. Obviously, if I'm doing straight makeup, I carry a lot of neutral types of eyeshadows.
Hmm.
They're always going to be more natural colors.
Hmm.
So they're going to be more browny colors, because browns is a very natural. Like when you mix all the colors of the rainbow, or all the spectrum, the color wheel, you're going to get browns. So brown is a very natural occurring color. So for me, I always carry like it's a Viseart palette. It's basically, as I give them a plug, it's got a lot of neutral shades of browns in them. Like any kind of eyeshadow that gives you that range. You know, I mean, unless you. So I always think that that's something you should have in your kit. It's something that will be nice. And a lot of times I don't use a lot of blacks. I use black browns.
Hmm.
Because if someone has like, you know, because it kind of tends more to go into the natural area. Like if it's black and it's really strong. It's like people that have like black hair. It can be a little like, wow, it's kind of very striking. Unless that's what their look is and that's the character that you're doing. So I tend to, you know, like lipsticks, you know, a neutral lipstick I think is good, because some people don't want to stand out. Maybe they don't want an actor to stand out. They want them to look very, very natural. So I think if you're going to have like beauty kits, you should have something that will give you those natural colors in them, as well as if you're going to do a party scene, then you can bring the you know, the flamboyant colors, the silvers and the brights and the shimmers and things like that. Um, that's good for effects. I always carry like a bruising palette, stage bloods. I have, you know, like silicone putties, like third degree is a silicone type of putty. Um, Anything that's gonna get something, because I did a movie years ago called College Road Trip, and I was doing both. I was actually doing beauty makeup and effects makeups. And then they decided to do, or they were like, oh, it was like a scene in the movie where this kid's pig runs through this person's wedding. I had no effects makeups on me. I had no products. I just had beauty makeups on me. But this is where the learning of color theory comes into play.
Ooh.
So I used certain colors of eyeshadows. And one thing I should say is carry matte eyeshadows. Because you could always make a matte shimmer, but you can't it's hard to make a shimmer matte. I mean, it's easier. I mean, you can with powder, obviously, but you can always add shimmer to a product. So I had all these matte eyeshadows. Some were purple, blues, and I ended up like putting a bruise on this guy with those color eyeshadows. And then he had to have his tooth knocked out. So I took a mascara pencil, I'm sorry, an eyeliner pencil, black, and I knocked his tooth out. But it goes back to knowing things. Because if I didn't know how those colors work and what colors work, I'd be like, well, I don't have it. What am I gonna do? But because I'm like, well, okay, I have these purples, I have these blues, I have these yellows, I have these reds. I'm gonna put them together. I'm gonna do a bruise, and I have these pencils that are black, and I'll go and I'll black out his tooth, and I made it work. But
How cool.
knowing
So cool.
what to do is extremely important, you know, to you as the artist.
3 Emmy Awards and some more things for
No,
Boardwalk.
nominations. I got to say nominations. 3 Emmy nominations.
Nominations.
3
3
Emmy.
and
As I say, always a bridesmaid, never a bride. But
yet.
I did recently just get a Guild Award, 706 Guild Award for the work on SNL. I got, thank you, thank you. You know, I got, you know, some stuff I used to do. I did some of the Halloween shows for The View. which like very nicely would give me certificates of my contributions to them getting the Emmys. Yeah, it's been good. It's not bad. It's not bad. I would have done it for as long as I have been doing it if I didn't enjoy what I'm doing and enjoy the company of people. As you can see, the people at SNL, just makes it more than just a workplace. It's like a place you want to go to,
It's like your
and you're
family.
happy to go to it. They're family.
They love you.
They're the weird family, but they're the family.
Hey,
Yes.
you're in with your tribe and they love you.
True. Thank you. Thank you for that.
From Spiderman 3 to John Wick 3, how do big budget films compare to indie horror like Slime City Massacre, for example?
Well, I'll be honest with you, all films are the same, except that they have more money. I think a student film is the same thing as John Wick or Spider-Man 3. They just have more money to do things. You're still expected to show up. You're still expected to do makeup. To me, it's the same. A face is a face. If it's a $200,000 film or a $200 million film, it's still a face. And I think that
woman out, excuse me, because Camille wants to say so proud of you for getting the Guild Award. Yes.
Thank you. I know I've known Camille a bit of time.
Excellent.
I've known her for a while. So I think you should approach any single job the same. I really think, because you're there to do makeup on whether it's a face is a face is a face. Like people say, oh, doing celebrities. I'm like, it's a face.
Mm-hmm.
It's a face like any other face. It might be more known face, but it's still a face. When I did Spider-Man 3, it was cool because I grew up reading Spider-Man. So it was really cool my first day on set seeing a truck that said, the Daily Bugle. And I said, oh, I'm here. It's a Daily Bugle. Wow, I'm here. Everyone was really cool, but it was like, I think I've always approached it no matter what it was. I knew it was, and truth be told, it's a face is a face is a face is a face. Some people might care about their face. They may ask you to use certain products or something like that. And you just do that. If some people want more organic products, you get them. The thing is, when someone sits in your chair, you have to have confidence in what you're doing to them. Because if they question your confidence, you take them out of it. And they don't know if you're capable. The one thing that a lot of people have to understand is that when someone's an actor, they go from job to job to job to job. And unless they have a personal, they are sitting in the chair of a hair and a makeup person or wardrobe person who they've never met. So you have to be able to put them at ease, that you show that and you have the confidence in doing the job for them. Because if they know that they can calm down and to go into their actor's head. I mean, how do you feel, when you do your acting, agree or disagree or?
Totally agree. I remember I sat in this one chair and I asked her where she got her training, and she told me she worked on clown. And when I got out of there, I looked in there and I was like, yeah, I can see the clown.
Yeah.
I wasn't feeling that warm and EVGV. I was kind of like, and I didn't touch it. I just left it as she did it. And I went out and they just made a small adjustment and toned down the lipstick and the eyes. And
I always say,
it was fine, but I made sure I didn't have her again.
Yeah, but that's
wonderful.
But there's her issue with not learning diversity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not you. It's not your fault, because you're just sitting in a chair, and it's like, with people who are just used to doing some type of makeup, and they figured that's the look for everybody. You're going to get situations like you were in, and you said you didn't work with that person again. I wish, hopefully someone went up to them and said, listen, you need to do this, you need to do that, and take it as a learning moment to say, you need to do this stuff. And if people are understanding that when people tell them this doesn't work, that it's like I said before, even the worst person can teach you something. You have to listen, and you have to say, the pride is, whatever, the pride before the fall. But you have to be able to listen to what people say, and don't take it as if they're being malicious. When someone sits in my chair who's never seen me before and they tell me certain things, I completely listen to them because this is their face and this is the look that they like. It's
Just
not what I like. Yeah. It's what they like. It's what they see. Now, I might do something slightly different, but I'm still taking the going to grandma's look. And I sometimes say, just hang out, let me finish, and you'll tell me after that. And they go, okay. Or they say, well, can you do this? Can you do this? And I don't take it. I'm like, okay, because you're learning something from that person that you could take to go on to your next job. Every opportunity is a learning opportunity, unless you push it away. Then you've taken that learning opportunity and you just threw it in the trash. That individual, had she, took the time and learned a little bit more, it would have been fine. And when people look at the people on the YouTube and Instagram and things like this, that's fine and dandy, but they're doing usually their own faces. They know their face, like they can close their eyes and know exactly where everything works, which is fine. But you have to diversify. You're not going to do your own makeup. If you're working a film, you're not going to do your own looks. You're going to do looks on other people. Learn, especially when we talked about the union test, you had to learn different looks. I've done everything from Civil War to modern contemporary looks. It always kills me when they say the 80s are a period look. I'm like, 80s are a period look? Even 2000s a period look. I'm like, what?
How can that be?
I know, what? Wasn't it just around the corner? But you have to know these things because, especially, people who do hair, you got to know these looks, and the more you can do, the more diverse you are, the more people are going to have you on their Rolodex, to call you the Rolodex. But, and you want people, and a lot of it has to do with your personality. If you're having issues at home, they stay at home. Unless you become friendly with enough people that you can talk about a situation. But a person in your chair is not to talk about how you're having trouble at home. I'm sorry, it's not the time. Believe it or not, actors say a lot of stuff to us. And we just go, I'm sorry to hear that. Okay, next.
I bet. Yeah.
Not so maliciously. You listen, you talk to them, you understand them. They're human beings. They're sitting in your chair. I mean, some of them I've had conversations about, and great conversations with people who I met for the very first time. It's been wonderful. And but the more as they say, the more you know, the better you are. The more diverse you are, the more capabilities you have. Trust in the path. Trust in yourself, and don't be so hard on yourself. No matter what happens, a lot of people, especially a lot of people, compare themselves to people who have been doing it for so many years. Like, you can't compare yourself to those individuals. I can't compare myself to the people who did the penguin makeup. It's amazing, but their path took them that way, which is fine. That's their path. It's beautiful work, and they get the accolades for it. And God bless them for getting those accolades. But they earned those accolades because they had a path that they followed. It's the same thing for everybody else, whether they're actors or whatever they are. It's whatever path you follow. As long as you follow that path, eventually, and if you stick with it and you listen and you practice and you do it, you will get to that point. And that's I think is extremely important. We talked about in the beginning, the passion, the desire to do it. Yeah, we're waking up at 9 o'clock to, whatever, to be at set at 12 o'clock to start working. Okay, that's what it's being asked. So let's do it.
What's it like seeing your work on upcoming films like Old Canada with
Well,
Patricia
Oh Canada, I think
Arquette?
is on, I believe Oh Canada has been released.
Ah,
I think you can find it. It came out in December. Believe you could find it. I think it's on Amazon or Prime, I believe. I haven't even seen it, which is funny. I did do a movie called Absolution, which was a Liam Neeson film I did in Boston. I don't know if that's on any streaming services as of yet. That's another one I haven't seen yet. It's surprising how much I don't see of what I work on.
Well, you're
You
busy
know,
working, so who has time?
yeah.
It's a fast problem,
I mean, I know it's a good problem to have, right?
right?
Um, I think, and I scrutinize her. When I watch something, I'll be sitting there and I'll be like, even when I'm at a monitor, I'm like I'll stand up sometimes in the way, and I'll just be like, oh, okay.
Excellent.
And
Continuous learning.
and then I go, it looks great. I'll sit down, and if I go, oh my God, I got to tweak that later. Um, it's makeup. As they say, you're not curing cancer. It's not rocket science, but it still has the same passion involved in it. And I think, if you love what you're doing, it doesn't matter what you're doing. As long as you love what you're doing and you stick with it and you stick with it, and there's going to be a lot of naysayers. There will always be those people that are going to kind of try to put you down and say things about you and do this and do that. I mean, it's part of the business. I hate to say it. It's not always the best of things. It's tough, to be honest with you. Sometimes I'm out in the freezing cold for hours. I'm still waiting for the glamour to happen. It hasn't happened. I don't expect it to happen. But you stick with it, you deal with it, you dress warm, you take care of yourself, and like I said, as long as you do it, you'll be fine. But you got to stick with it more than anything.
He's dropping a lot of pearls here, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're taking
Yeah,
it into your heart.
I hope so too.
Yes.
I wouldn't be doing it for so long if I didn't like it, if I hated it.
And I love that you teach it and you've been spreading your makeup skills for over a
Thank you.
decade. What's the
Thank
best
you.
part
Thank you.
about passing on your skills besides making sure the next generation knows how?
Well, that's a lesson I really learned from Dick Smith, because Dick Smith was always a makeup artist. So when he learned something, he shared it. So I felt in that way, I do that man honor by learning something and teaching that to other people. Because after I'm gone, what do you got? If I can learn the next generation, then I've done the makeup world the service of continuing and educating people. That's why it's on there. Like if you don't evolve, you go extinct. That's why it's on my Instagram page. So you always
Excellent.
have to learn.
What advice do you give newbies breaking into makeup artistry
Do as
today?
much as you can. Get as
Yeah,
much as you can, even if it means like doing something for like no money, even if it's like nothing, because eventually it becomes something. You sacrifice now, and it is a lot about sacrifice, but ultimately you will get to where you need to get. And this is the time to practice. I always tell this, when you take up a makeup brush and you go once, and if you go twice, the second time you've done it, you're twice as more uh, educated than the first time you did it. So every time you swipe that makeup brush, you're becoming better and better and better. So you put a lipstick on once, you did it once, you do it twice, you doubled the amount of experience you've had. 3 times the amount of experience, 4 times, 100 times experience than you have. Especially if you work on diversity, different skin tones, different ethnicities, things like this. Stuff you need to learn.
what's next for you, Craig? Any dream projects or wild makeup ideas you're just itching to tackle?
Well, I'm doing a lot of. I mean, the one thing I'm doing, I'm just practicing. Sometimes I'll just practice. I'll sit in the basement. I'll do like weird stuff like this. Um, one thing I should learn, if people are going to get into special effects like this, learn realistic makeup. Learn not makeup. Don't always follow what you see on Instagram, because a lot of them are makeups. If you're going to do realistic bruising, cuts, and things like this, pick up a series of books called Forensic Pathology.
Hmm,
That's the study of death, and it's medical books. And if you want to make a wound look like a wound, go to the source. That's a real wound. Otherwise, you're going to interpret it. As
ah,
an artist, you will interpret it, and that's not there. So that's why when you look at stuff on the internet, a lot of that stuff is makeup. So you got to be careful. You're basically interpreting someone else's interpretation of what a bruise may look like. So if you're gonna do this, so when I do these types of prosthetics, I have a forensic pathology book. So I study all the anatomy inside. I may Hollywood it up a little bit, but besides that, all this is actually from a real person's throat cut. So I study that stuff. It's kind of gruesome to look at, but if you're gonna make something look real, like really quick story, I did a movie called Trainwreck, and I had to replicate a knee operation where they're replacing someone's knee. I studied videos upon videos upon videos of how they replace a knee. So, and we actually had a doctor who was also consultant. So the director would be like, "Is this right? Is this correct? Is this right?" And the actor, if the doctor said yes, it's good, then I did a good job. And when I was in Georgia on The Walking Dead, I took myself to the movies and I was watching Trainwreck, and that scene was coming up, and I'm sitting there like this. And when I heard the audience go, "Oh, ah," I went, "Yeah, it worked."
Sweet.
Because people didn't think it was a makeup.
Yeah.
That's what I said before. They didn't know it was. If they going into the room going, "Oh, that's going to be a makeup," it wouldn't have the same reaction. So when people, and the thing is, if you don't pull people out of the movie or out of the TV show because whatever doesn't work, and you bring them, if you don't put any ripples in the water in a negative way, when I say, if you put ripples in the water in a positive way, because it helps the story. Obviously, if the makeup helps the story, the Exorcist, Reagan, Linda Blair all messed up. It's horrifying to see a 13-year-old girl all messed up like that, and it helps the demon possession. But when Max von Sydow's 44 years old, looking like a 70-year-old man, and you don't think he's a 70-year-old man, that's two different amazing makeups, because you had the horror version of it and you had the realistic type of makeup. That's why Exorcist is a really important. If people want to do makeup, watch that movie, watch the original one, because you have the makeup that disappears and the makeup that's up front and center. Two different versions of the makeup that blend into one another to create two different versions of it. So when I do this, so when you have that Reagan makeup, it's all, garish and gruesome and grotesque. When you have the Father Merrin makeup and it's realistic, then it looks great. So when like I said, if you're going to do stuff like this, and it doesn't matter, it could be old age makeups, anything like this. If you follow realistic, then the makeup disappears. The makeup becomes part of the story, and I think you just propel the film, the TV show, it propels it. But if it's the other way, you take people out of it.
Yeah.
Like I've seen bad wigs and I kind of go, "Ooh."
Yeah.
Or the makeup doesn't look good. And you're like, "Oh, that's not good makeup." And I can't get into the movie because I'm sitting there going like, "Ooh, I see that makeup." I was watching a show where this guy had a beard hair and the hair was going like this. And I kept watching it and watching it and watching it. And then one take, it was like this. I said, "Oh, it's great." And then they cut back and it's back up like this because they used one take. And it took me out of the film. I'm sitting there looking at this weird hair sticking up. And I don't blame the makeup artist because, they probably didn't get a chance to fix it. But they did fix it, or maybe whatever happened during the show, but they used that bad take. Well, it was a good take acting-wise, but not a good one for the view. But what I'm saying is, if your makeup that works within the story, it's great. It's wonderful. So you can help the story or hurt the story.
You got to keep the magic.
You have to. Well, I always say, if you're only going to tell people how you pull the rabbit out of the hat, you've done a great job.
Perfect. Last question for the evening, although I have so many more to ask you. We'll have to again. But if you could make over anyone, living or fictional, who would it be, and what would
William Dafoe would be really cool.
And what would you do?
I don't know. I would just do something, because he's like one of those actors that's not afraid of putting on makeup. And I think he'd be a really great blessing to have in the chair, because I think he'd be one of those guys that'd be like, "Hey, do what you got to do.
Do what you got to do.
Do what you got to do." And I think he's also one of the guys that I think in a lot of ways would use the makeup as part of his character. Like he wouldn't look at it as like it was an adverse thing. Like, "Oh, I got to put on makeup, blah, blah, blah." He'd be like, "No, put the makeup on my face because I'm playing this role and I got to look like this guy." So I think he would be a great candidate for that.
Well, you've heard the magic of Craig.
Thank you.
You can look him up on Instagram, and he is amazing. and look for him and his work. Or no, you won't see his work because it's so good.
Maybe
Craig,
you might see me on a credit somewhere. I don't know. Maybe.
no, MKUP, and we look forward to being there when you get your Emmy. So well deserved.
Well, thank you. Thank
being
you,
with us
Cynthia.
today.
Thank you so much for having me on. Thank you for everyone for listening to me babbling for about an hour. Hopefully it was a wonderful time, and I helped. If I help one person out there in a career, then I've done my job.
And you gave good pearls that work in whatever business you're in, actually.
Thank you.
Think
you
about
so
it.
much. Thank you.
So if you hang out in the green room, we'll say goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. See you next Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please share this out, and please join and sign up for my website so you can get emails so you don't miss the episode. You can also go to YouTube and watch the rerun just in case you want to hear those pearls that Craig dropped out. Have a great evening, day, week, month, wherever you are. See you soon.
Thank you.
Be kind.